When I first met Kelly, it felt like the universe had finally aligned for me. She was everything I'd ever dreamed of, witty, beautiful, and with a laugh that could brighten the darkest of days. Our courtship was a whirlwind of romance. We went on spontaneous road trips, spent nights stargazing, and shared our deepest secrets and dreams. And said, "Shane, I promise I will always be loyal to you. It's you and me against the world." I believed her. Every fiber of my being believed her. A year later, we were married. I was the happiest man alive. The first few years of our marriage were blissful. We were a team, built a life together, bought our first home, and even started talking about kids. I never once questioned her, never once doubted her love or her commitment. Why would I? She was my rock, my everything. Bah! Kelly started becoming more distant. Our late-night talks were replaced by her typing away on her laptop, her back to me. When I'd ask what she was working on, she'd just say, "Oh, just a deadline, honey. Don't worry about it." The physical affection, once so abundant, dwindled to a quick peck on the cheek before bed. I tried to talk to her about it, asking if she was okay, if I had done something wrong. She'd always brush it off, blaming stress from work. I wanted to believe her, so I did. I told myself it was just a phase, that all marriages go through ups and downs. Then came the late nights out, girls' night, she'd say, or a networking event for work. At first, it was once in a while. Then it became a weekly, sometimes bi-weekly occurrence. She'd come home in the early hours of the morning, smelling faintly of a cologne that wasn't mine. When I'd mention it, she'd laugh and say, "Oh, you and your sensitive nose? Probably just got a hug from someone at the bar." Again, I chose to ignore the growing knot of dread in my stomach. I loved her, and love means trust, right? The breaking point came on our 5th wedding anniversary. I had planned a surprise romantic dinner at the restaurant where I'd proposed. I'd taken the day off work, decorated the house with candles and roses, and cooked her favorite meal. I was so excited to see her face. An hour before she was due home, I got a text. "So sorry, babe. Got caught up in a huge project." My heart sank. An all-nighter on our anniversary? Didn't feel right. I told myself I wouldn't look, that it was an invasion of her privacy. But the doubt was a poison, and I needed the antidote, or at least the truth. I clicked, and there it was. A whole thread of emails, not with a client, but with a man named Mark. They weren't talking about graphic design. They were talking about their weekend getaways, the boring husbands they were both deceiving, and their plans for the future, a future that didn't include me. The emails painted a picture of a year-long affair. My business trips were their romantic vacations. Our girls' nights were their dates. The words on the screen blurred as tears filled my eyes. She promised loyalty, but she gave me the deepest betrayal imaginable. Every "I love you," every shared moment from the past year was suddenly tainted, a lie. I sat there in the dark, surrounded by the wilting roses and the cold dinner, for what felt like an eternity. I was numb. The woman I had built my entire world around had shattered it with a few clicks of a keyboard. When she finally came home the next morning, looking tired but not from work, I didn't yell, didn't scream. I just looked at her and said, "Who's Mark?" The color drained from her face. There was no denial, no excuse. In that moment of silence, the truth was louder than any confession. The woman who had promised to be my partner against the world had actually been working against me all along. The journey from that point was incredibly painful. There were lawyers and signed papers, and the dividing of a life we had built together. It was a long and dark road, filled with grief, anger, and a profound sense of loss. But slowly, very slowly, the sun started to peek through the clouds again. I leaned on my friends and family, the people who had been there for me all along. I threw myself into my work, not as an escape, but as a way to rebuild myself. I started rediscovering the man I was before I was Shane and Kelly. I went hiking, took up fishing again, and reconnected with old friends. It took time, a lot of time, to heal. The scar of that betrayal will probably always be there, a reminder of a painful lesson learned, but it no longer defines me. I learned that my worth isn't determined by someone else's inability to see it. And I learned that while some promises are broken, the promise you make to yourself to heal, to grow, and to find happiness again is the most important one of all. It's a promise I intend to keep. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've been through something similar, know that you are not alone, and it does get better. Take care of yourselves,